Hey guys, welcome back to RPO Restorations. I'm going to do something a little bit different today with this week's video. I was talking to somebody about the channel the other day and they said, you know what, you've never done a cold start video with the Oldsmobile. So today, that's what we're going to do. Stay tuned. All right guys, let's hop inside, get this thing going. I have the choke dialed in pretty well, so it should start as soon as we fire it up. There we go. Pull the windows down so you can hear everything. We'll back it out of the garage and I'll give you a quick walk around. We'll take a look at the engine. Just get this fast idle down. There we go. Fast idle's a little high, but I actually keep it tuned as best I can. Pop the hood real fast. Got that idle down. Take a look at the motor. There were 3 engine options available, especially towards the later end of the G-body Cutlass Supreme run. First was a pretty anemic 231 cubic inch Buick V6, available with a 2-barrel dual jet carburetor. Those were a little underpowered, especially for the size, the weight. You're dealing with a mid-size body on frame vehicle. The next option you could get was a 307 cubic inch 5-liter Oldsmobile V8. It's known as a Y-code V8. That came with about 140 horsepower and 235 foot-pounds of torque. These motors were actually available up until the very end of carbureted General Motors full-size V8 engines. It was actually the last carbureted V8 engine installed in a General Motors production car, the 1991 Cutlass Cruiser. So it has that distinction. It's also the last carbureted Oldsmobile V8 engine in production. Then the top of the line engine choice for these was the 307 cubic inch 5-liter 9-code high output V8. Those were rated at about 180 horsepower, about 235 foot-pounds of torque. Through the first half of their run, were available in 1983, 1984, 1983 and 1984 in the Hurst Olds. Were available 85, 86, and 87 in the Oldsmobile 442. 1985, 84, and 83, they came with the original head design, which were known as the 5A heads. Gave the motor about 180 horsepower, like I said, 235 foot-pounds of torque. Sometime in 1985, they switched over to what became known as the 7A heads, or the swirl port heads, that had a little swirl in the intake water to get a better mix of the air and fuel, but it also kind of restricted it a little bit more, so you lost about 10 or so horsepower. These came with about 170. We kept the 235 foot-pounds of torque and actually lowered when you would hit the peak in the RPM band. That was pretty much done for emissions purposes, but you know, when you really look at it and look at the time these cars were created, I mean, General Motors was still using the 2.5-liter Iron Duke 4-cylinder, which, if you were lucky, was putting out about 90 horsepower. So, I mean, comparatively, what you can get from the factory, I know by today's standards, they're not that great horsepower-wise, but back then, they were pretty good. Just give you a little look at the exhaust here. When I actually bought this car, the original owner had at some point in time replaced the exhaust with a Monte Carlo style, which exited from under the rear bumpers. So one of the first things I did was replace it with a more factory style Oldsmobile with the Walker Quiet Flow mufflers, which I still think are a little bit too loud. You know, and it's funny when you really think about, you know, I was pulling the car out of the garage to do this video, and the thought that popped into my head was how kind of everywhere these cars were at a certain time. The Oldsmobile Cutlass Supremes were the #1 selling vehicle in 1983 in the United States. They sold over 323,000 of them. I mean, if you were born a certain time like I was, these things were everywhere. Especially when I was in high school. I mean, these were just 8, 10-year-old used cars. I mean, everybody had them because they were so cheap. You could pick one of these up for $2,000 or $3,000 and beat it up for a couple of years. And I mean, they were everywhere. Just about every used car lot had 4 or 5 of them, be it Monte Carlos, Cutlass Supremes, Grand Prix. But, you know, like everything else, things go away, and now you hardly ever see them. So, guys, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time.